Thank you, councillors, staff members and members of the public. I will declare this meeting open at 5:30. I would also like to acknowledge the Shire President of Donnybrook, Leanne Rinch, who's here, and the CEO, Ben Rose, and of course a number of Donnybrook councillors and staff. Thank you for joining us tonight. And we also have a couple of announcements internally, which I did make mention last week, but it was just a briefing. So formally on the record, Councillor Steele, congratulations on your marriage last week. And Councillor Plum, who's not with us today, but congratulations to him for the birth of his baby boy. Congratulations to those. So as I mentioned, Councillor Plum is on approved leave of absence. And then I think we have to deal with, when do we deal with the phone dial-in, Lem? Next, later, no worries, and we'll deal with the Councillor Steck in a moment. Thank you, Lem. I have two, now, sorry, okay, turns out we do it now. So we do have a request from Councillor Steck to join by phone from Frangipani Drive in Broome. Those who approve of that, please indicate. And that's passed. We'll just get her on the line.
Michelle, I'm going to put you on speakerphone now. Can you just confirm the street number, please? You're at 36. Thank you.
Councillor Steck, can you hear me? Oh, that's not very loud. Councillor Steck, can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Thanks, Councillor Steck. You've been approved to join this meeting.
Thank you to all my councillors.
Moving to declarations of interest, councillors, we have one on there from Councillor Andrew, and then I've just received one from Councillor Yip on item 10.4.2. It's an impartiality interest as she is part of the Bragg Advisory Group. Are there any other declarations of interest for tonight, councillors? Thank you. There are no questions, but we do have questions taken on notice from the last meeting, and the questions there are written and responses are in the minutes. Responded to verbally last week. Oh, sorry. Yeah, verbally last week. Thank you. Confirmation of the previous minutes, councillors. Can I have somebody move? We confirm those. Thank you, Councillor McCleary. Seconder, Councillor Giles. Thank you. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Oh, sorry, Councillor Steck. Confirmation of the minutes. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's carried unanimously. Sorry, Councillor Steck. We have minutes of the advisory committees there. Councillors, somebody happy to move that we receive those? Thank you, Councillor Gozasek. Seconder, Councillor Quain. All those in favour? Councillor Steck?
Yes.
That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Minutes of the special electors meeting, the special council meeting, councillors. Our budget, could I have somebody move that? Thank you, Councillor Quain. Second. Thank you, Councillor Gozasek. All those in favour? Councillor Steck?
Yes.
That's carried unanimously. Thank you. We have no petitions, but we have received a deputation from Mr. Brian Redger on item 10.4.3. Just confirming was the correct one, because I know it's changed. That is, thank you. All those approving of Mr. Reddinger, please indicate. That's carried. Thank you, Brian. As you are aware, when we get to that item, we'll invite you up. Thank you. So, councillors, coming out for discussion at this stage, we have 10.2.1, as we need the nominations. 10.4.2 as we need the nominations, and 10.4.3. Are there any other items for discussion out of this agenda? All okay? If that's the case, somebody happy to move the rest on block? Thank you, Councillor Smith. Second, Councillor McCleary. All those in favour? Councillor Steck?
Yes.
Thank you. That's carried unanimously. Which brings us to item 10.2.1, councillors. Recommendation there, we need to endorse some councillors for the Walga AGM. I'm all yours. Do we have some nominations?
Yes, I'd like to nominate Gabby Gassett.
Thank you, Councillor Gassett. Councillor Quain?
Yes, please.
Any other nominations? If that's the case. Oh, sorry, I will be taking these separately, of course, councillors. So this is for dealing with point 1 as the voting delegates. Is there anyone else who'd like to be a voting delegate? Okay, so
I would just like to say, Mr Mayor, if I could, all new councillors should go.
that's up to each councillor, Councillor Steck. So we're dealing with item 1, which is the voting, endorsing the councillors as the voting delegates. So I'll put item 1. All those in favour? Councillor Steck?
Yes.
That's carried.
So you're taking Councillor Gassett and Quain as moved and seconded?
Yes, that's. You're happy with that, Councillor Gassett? Apologies for that. You happy to move that
Do we
motion?
get a vote?
Yes, you vote as well.
Yes.
Councillor Quain, were you happy to second that point 1?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Point 2, councillors, was there anyone else who would like to attend the convention? Please rise, Councillor Steele.
I just ask a question.
Sure.
Is there an early bird? I'm not quite sure if I can get time for work. I just want to know, is there a reason why we're asking now? If I change my mind, I want to go further date, it doesn't need to be a council decision, does it, to go to this?
CEO?
Through Mr Mayor, the reason we bring it to council as early as we can is mainly for accommodation requirements, because the accommodation does get chewed up very quickly. So we try to make sure we know who is going, and then there may well be those elected members who are going want to participate in either some of the subsidiary programs or even do a site visit outside of the program of something of relevance to the City of Bunbury. So perhaps if I'd rather recommend you say yes to go and then tell us in 2 weeks' time if you can't go. That would be easier.
Thank you. So Councillor Giles, you indicated. Councillor Turner. Councillor Yip. Councillor Smith. Councillor Steele. How are we going there, Minute Taker?
Can you please just run that past me again, Mr Mayor?
Yeah, so Councillor Steck, we are dealing with the item 2 now. So Councillor Gassett and Quain were endorsed as our voting delegates, and then authorising the attendance of Councillor Gassett, Councillor Quain, Councillor Giles, Councillor Turner, Councillor Yip, Councillor Smith and Councillor Steele.
I agree.
Thank you. Are there any other councillors wanting to attend? Okay, if that's the case, we'll have somebody move that we authorise those. Thank you, Councillor Giles. Thank you, Councillor Andrew. I'll put that. All those in favour? Councillor Steck?
Yes.
That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, councillors, item 10.4.2, again, looking for some nominations here. Do I have Councillor McCleary? Would you like to nominate Councillor McCleary? Is there another nomination? Councillor Yip? Was there anyone else interested? Okay, if that's the case, somebody happy to move that recommendation? Councillor Andrew, and a seconder. Councillor Quain. I'll put that, councillors. All those in favour? Councillor Steck?
Yes.
That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, item 10.4.3. Mr. Redinger, if you please come to the stand, and you have 10 minutes, and as we discussed, please making sure you're very respectful with your behaviour and language.
The clock says.
Yeah, so we run it twice. We need to amend that. Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mayor Jason, for this opportunity to address Bunbury Council, including the CEO, the city's executive staff, on the subjects of visitation to Bunbury and the Bunbury Visitor Center, or BVC as we call it. Also, welcome to our distinguished guests, including Donnybrook councilors and executives. Welcome. I will be on my best behavior tonight, and I do apologize to any councilors I may have offended in the briefing meeting. I sincerely apologize. For the record, I'm speaking against the officer's recommendation in agenda item 10.4.3. Therefore, I retract my earlier for recommendation in the deputation at the previous 28th of June council meeting, where I supported a recommendation at that time. But I have reasons for that, and I'll cite those shortly. I remind council that the recommendations included in my email of the 8th of August addressed to Mel Osborne, the CEO, and Gary Barber, Sustainable Communities Director, with copies sent to all the councilors. I've received a few brief responses from the CEO in response to that email, but I am still firmly supportive of all my recommendations in that email. That email was condensed to just over one page, and it contains all my key points.
Sorry,
Yep.
Mr. Ranger. Yeah, there's time to take on that. It is a bit odd. Any idea then?
It's air conditioning, isn't it?
It wasn't on when your mic was off. So it's only on your mic. You might just have to talk very loudly, Brian. Are you happy with that?
Okay. So there were two main subjects, and I'm just going to briefly go over what points I have in response. Visitation to Bunbury, and what I teamed up with that was the urgent relocation of the BBC staff. It's been a very extended so-called temporary relocation period for the Bunbury Visitor Center staff to the city's admin building. They've been in the lobby for over 9.5 months, ever since the 2nd of November 21, when it was supposed to be a temporary relocation. This building is an unacceptable location, and it's also inadequate for them to properly greet and service visitors, meet with PVC members, and to make referrals to Bunbury's local businesses. Bungio's region visitation has increased significantly by nearly 25%, or 131,000 visitors, year on year ended March 22, and it continues to grow. The BBC staff have therefore been missing out on thousands, not hundreds, thousands of walk-in visitors in the period that they've been in the lobby of the building. Here they only receive, as I understand it, approximately 10 to 15 visitors a day. I'm not going to do the math, but the visitation figures on Bunbury, in fact, puts Bunbury at the top of the list of all sub-regions in WA, with their growth of 25% approximately in visitation in 1 year. And that's going to be all mostly West Aussies traveling out yonder. I strongly recommend that the BBC staff be relocated as soon as possible back to their former old train station office, at least for a foreseeable period of time. That is the most accessible, least expensive, and quickest ready to move into visible location where they can service all the new walk-in visitors. Many BBC members and also local businesses, especially the local businesses in the CBD, want the BBC to be in a visible and accessible location within the CBD area. They're not supportive, the people that I've talked to are not supportive of a visitor center over the water at Kiwana Bay. Besides, the vast majority of visitors are right here in the CBD. They're not at the beach. People are saying, go where the visitors are. It's the wintertime. There's nobody at the beach in the wintertime. They're all in local hotels. They're all visiting businesses in the CBD, and that's the way it should remain. Therefore, that's the background on why I believe they need to go back to their former quarters where they have more space and more privacy to greet visitors and other walk-ins. The city's own staff can provide security there. I recommend relatively modest security changes, including random security patrols using the city's existing rangers. Add a couple more security cameras. I was down there today. I think one in the BBC entrance area and one inside would be good. There's two at either end of the long building. is any safety or security incidents that would occur either at or in or around the BBC area in that building, somebody can press a button and the police will be there like that. I think the city has a primary duty of care to provide for public safety, especially including its own staff, no matter where they will be working, and for its residents and visitors as well. So that concludes point one, which is visitation and emergency relocation of the BBC staff. Point two, permanent location for the BBC. That's how I'm referring to it. Before the councilors can make informed decisions on the BBC's longer-term home, more detailed information is required. The BBIC Service Review Report, while it's very good quality and it contains a lot of useful information from surveys and questionnaires and personal meetings, and including input from other regional tourism organizations and visitor centers, right? It doesn't have enough details. It needs better definition of the options using quantitative data. For example, what are the BBC's objectives? What are its operational requirements? What's the minimum required office size for them to function well? What's the expected growth rate for visitors? Add the old train station onto the options list. It should have always been on there. It should have in fact been the base option that all other options are being compared to. Provide cost estimates for each option, and then provide cost comparisons between the options before recommending the best location for a permanent BBC. The present report doesn't do that. We simply require more study and more information for councilors to make informed decisions. This is the main reason why I'm not supporting the executive recommendation to move the BBC to the kiosk. Only then should councilors make the recommendations for the BBC's long-term location. In the meantime, please put the BBC staff there back where they can greet and service the most visitors and provide local business referrals. Those businesses are severely missing out on business because if the visitors are here, and the report says they are, they're not getting to talk to anybody, so there's no visitation management taking place. They're running loose around the region, and we don't know where they are, and there's very little chance that they're going to stop in and talk to the visitor center people in this office. It's not convenient. There's not sufficient parking, and there's no caravan parking, is one thing. A sea container of only 30 square meters, as was pointed out in the briefing meeting, is ridiculously too small, especially when the former BBC office at the train station was 171 square meters. I believe it's also demeaning to the experienced BBC staff members to put in a container. Point three, other recommendations. I strongly recommend that a committee of council for what I'm going to call Bungeo Region Visitation, or a similar title, be created so that future visitation and visitor center coordination issues can be discussed openly between the nominated councilors, including the councilor to chair that committee of council, city staff, tourism industry reps, BBC members, a BGCCI rep, and perhaps even other regional visitor center reps and relevant stakeholders. I'm saying that that committee should be anywhere from 10 to 12 in size. But it would be similar in function to other committees of council, like the BAEC, for instance, which manages our events. That committee has a range of stakeholders, including city staff and councilors, and it does a great job of managing the events, in my opinion. So with that precedence, I'm saying Bunbury definitely needs something to look after tourism, and in particular, a visitation program. I point out that there's a fundamental difference between visitation management and destination marketing. The two programs are complementary to each other, but they are absolutely not the same thing. Promoting the city to tourists via websites, social media, newsletters, via destination marketing campaigns does not greet, nor does it provide specific services and business referrals to visitors when they arrive here. You need both programs in a city the size of Bunbury to be effective. But since ASW, Australia Southwest, the regional tourism organization, through Claire Savage to be specific, already provides destination marketing programs for the entire Bungeo region, it would be too expensive and also a duplication of their efforts to have Bunbury adopt a destination marketing program. Why would we do that when ASW and Claire Savage is already doing that, putting out newsletters and promotions to visit the Bungeo region? We shouldn't do that. We should invest our money in a high-class visitor center that can handle the number of visitors that we expect to get in the near future. city the size of Bunbury with over 80,000 residents in the city, including our nearby coastal suburbs, not the other shires necessarily, but north to Leichenall and south to Stratham. They're very close to Bunbury in terms of visitation, right? Can't afford to be without a first-class visitor center to greet visitors face-to-face, provide travel advice, directions to attractions, referrals to accommodations and local businesses, maps and brochures, and referrals to its own members, thereby earning commissions to help pay for their own existence. In speaking as a community and tourism advocate, the visitor center staff should be relocated back into a visible and accessible location very soon. We're missing too many visitors here. BBC should not be downsized, rather it should be upsized, because evidence clearly shows that the number of visitors to Bungeo region is skyrocketing, just as we are emerging from the COVID area. And we haven't yet seen the return of interstate or international visitors. As I said last time, anecdotal evidence.
Mr. Renger, that is your 10 minutes. I'll allow you 30 seconds to summarise.
Okay. So what I'm suggesting is Bunbury needs to think big about tourism and visitation and not be small-minded about updating and modernizing the BBC, especially when there is so much at stake here. For Bunbury refers itself as WA's second city, but it's yet to prove that through its leadership, duty of care, and ownership of key issues, including listening to its 900-plus survey respondents in the strategic community plan, which made community safety its absolute #1 priority. It doesn't take any imagination why those respondents said safety is #1, because safety should always be #1. And I think the city needs to address it. Tourism, by the way, was #5. Challenges are just opportunities in disguise. So please demand that the councilors, please demand more information from the executive team, including a detailed option analysis for all available options before making a decision. I therefore urge the councilors to vote against the officer's recommendation in agenda item 10.4.2. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Renger. Just to clarify for council as well, is that the reason we're dealing with this, it was deferred, so we're dealing with this as a deferral. Technically, it should have been adjourned as it was open last time, but we are dealing with it as a deferral, so starting it again, which is why we have this recommendation in front of us. So we have a recommendation in front of us. Councillor McCleary would like to move. Councillor Quain, are you seconding? Okay, so just take a seat, Councillor Quain. We'll get this on the board first. So we have a mover, Councillor McCleary. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Andrew. Councillor McCleary, just take a seat for a second. Councillor Quain, we deal with the executive recommendation. During debate, I encourage you to speak against, and at that stage you can put your alternative recommendation during your speaking against. So, Councillor McCleary as the mover. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, councillors. The executive recommendation on the table tonight for debate is that Council receives the attached report Review of Visitor Servicing as Appendix 10.4.4. 2. Supports relocation of the Bunbury Visitors Information Centre to the Kambana foreshore. Fellow councillors, please understand this is the only decision we have to make tonight. Nothing more. I have read the report provided to us by our city team, who are trained in tourism, have many years' experience in the industry. I have also researched how other regions are administering their visitor services. I have listened to people's views who are interested in this debate and those who have contacted me to give their opinion. I am confident that moving the information service to Kambana foreshore will have a positive impact on the number of visitors and the local community who will visit and engage with our staff at this proposed new location. It would be timely of me to also add that the Bunbury Visitor Information Centre is the only accredited visitor information centre in the Bunbury Geograph region and is a key stakeholder in the Bunbury Geograph Tourism Partnership. Mr. Mayor and councillors, we know our centre plays a very important role for the region and is well respected. What we may not have known, and the report has revealed, research and advice by the tourism and visitor servicing industry has indicated that visitor centres should be located where the visitors are. More recently, Busselton relocated its visitor centre to the foreshore, which saw visitors' numbers more than double from 90,000 to 200,000 visitors over a year. Tourism WA has advised it is now considering relocating the WA Visitor Centre from the CBD in Forest Chase to the new museum. What we also know is Kambana Foreshore is a beautiful place to visit. Locals and visitors love to go there. If our visitor centre is located there, many locals will naturally migrate into the centre, an opportunity for them to discover so much more about our region and in all probability join the visitors and tourists on many new adventures around our region. I do think that is how Busselton's numbers have increased so rapidly. But don't just take my word for it. Support for Kambana Foreshore location has been provided by the industries such as the Bunbury Geograph Tourism Partnership, Australia's Southwest, Tourism WA and members. The Visitor Centre staff have been engaged throughout the process of relocation and there are no objections or concerns identified by the staff. They support the relocation to the Kambana Foreshore. I know, Mr Mayor, we as a council value their knowledge and understanding of the visitors' expectation and needs upon arriving in Bunbury. Staff at the Visitor Centre have years of experience in the industry and do know the best location for business. Alongside the service review, the location of the Bunbury Visitor Info Centre has also been reviewed with safety of staff and visitors in mind. Please take a minute, councillors, to remember the shocking confidential report we received some time ago on this serious topic that got these wheels turning. Nothing has changed. In regards to the potential building that may be installed at the Kambana Foreshore, please do not get hung up on what the building may or may not look like at this stage of the debate. It would be unfortunate to miss an opportunity simply by jumping over several important steps. Remember the silos? Who would have thought 3 ugly cement cylinders could turn the whole area around to what it is today? And look at the skate park and our bridge. As a temporary building, a demountable or container does not sound very sexy, but it will be attractive and fit for purpose and affordable. The building can easily be relocated and modified for another use at a later date. The Visitors Centre requires a new venue. Everyone agrees. See council meeting held on the 22nd of February 2022, item 10.15 from the annual meeting of electors regarding finding a new venue, visitor centre service. They need it now. Kambana Foreshore fits the criteria. I'm voting yes for the relocation for the Kambana Foreshore.
Thank you, Councillor McCleary. Councillor Andrew.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, members, and thank you, Councillor McCleary, for getting the ball rolling on this agenda item tonight. First off, I would just, probably remiss, because everyone knows I like to do it, is just to thank the responsible officer and the staff for preparing this report for Council. It is unfortunate that the former team leader of economic development has moved on to new pastures. It would have been nice to have a decision before that person left the post, but I wish her all the best in her future endeavours. This executive recommendation is very simple, and it's very simple because we have a role under the Act to provide governance and oversight. We are prohibited from being involved in the administration of the organisation. Thus, the very careful wording on the screen, which is point 1, talks about receive. So we're not here to debate the document that's been presented. And also point 2, to support. So we're not instructing, we're not conducting, we're not doing anything else bar support. But the document does hold all the answers that we need. And whilst there has been a lot of very vigorous and informative discussion around this, the document is the paperwork, I guess, that we should be informing our decision on here tonight. I look at it from a business point of view, and it's very simple for me. Obviously, the propositions being put forward that we should be going where the visitors are. And the best tourist precinct we have is obviously over at Kambana Bay, where millions and millions of dollars have been spent, and another trace of money will soon be invested with the expansion of the marina out front of the Sailing Club. But it is where the visitors are. Why? Because the Dolphin Discovery Centre. The Dolphin Discovery Centre provides international marketing. They are a major tourist attraction for us. And to be able to put our facility close by that, close to our wonderful beaches, across the road from our largest tourist caravan park and tourist precinct, across the road and just down the road from many other ideal hospitality locations, it's really a no-brainer. So I'll keep it brief, and I'll just once again thank the staff for providing this information. And again, we have to be mindful of our role in this chamber, which is oversight, governance, and not to meddle too much in the administration of the organisation. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Andrew, is there a speaker against? Councillor Quain.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, for the opportunity to speak. I acknowledge and thank the City staff for their time and expertise to compiling the review of visitor service document, a high-level quality document which will be a valued reference point. I am speaking for the relocation of the Bunbury Visitor Centre to be relocated back to the former and well-known location at the old train station. Staff have advised...
Order, Mr Mayor.
Yeah, so...
Relevance?
So Councillor Cleary, take a seat. So Councillor Quain, just to clarify, your foreshadowed alternative motion is that you support the relocation back to the old bus station. So just bearing in mind we're dealing with this now, so you're not supporting this motion, so you'll be supporting your foreshadowed alternative recommendation.
Shall I read that out?
You can read it out now if you'd like to, what your foreshadowed motion is, but I think we've got the gist of it now.
Yep. So the foreshadowed motion is that Council does not support relocation of the Bunbury Visitors Information Centre to the Kambana foreshore in a new standalone facility, and supports the relocation of the Bunbury Visitor Information Centre to their former location at the old train station.
Sure. So we're dealing with this one now, Councillor Quain. So yeah, we'll speak. So you can speak against this one, Councillor Andrew.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just a point of order, please.
No,
Could-
I actually support
Councillor Steck. Councillor Steck, just keep a moment, please. Councillor Andrew.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Can we please have some clarity around the foreshadowed motion? The Local Government Act requires us to provide a safe working place as per the OSH, sorry, I always go OSH, the OSH Act of 1984. Does this contradict that and thus making an unlawful motion?
Sure. Take a seat, both councillors. Thanks. So, councillors, obviously there's been the foreshadowed recommendation talks about not supporting this and supporting it at another location. If this is lost, I'm prepared to accept that, but I'll ask the CEO to respond from that in a formal point of view.
Through Mr Mayor, it's now called the Workplace Safety and Health Act, the WSH Act, and that has added in some key elements around workplace safety in making special reference to mental health and the safety in the workplace for all people concerned. Given the number of incidents that unfortunately were experienced at the old site, that prompted the removal of the staff into a safer environment, being in the foyer, and that was always at that stage considered to be a temporary move. I guess the key question here is if Council so resolved to resolve to actually use this railway station, I would not be sending staff back there until such time as it is physically safe and staff feel mentally safe to participate and to work in that environment.
Thanks, Andrew. As I said, we'll deal with this item. We'll deal with this item now as it is. If we need to get with a second item, we will. Again, what you mentioned, it says supports. It doesn't mean we're instructing or endorsing anything at that stage. So, Councillor Quain, given that, I'll allow you to continue or start your debate now. You effectively that. So, again, we're dealing with this current executive recommendation, so you'll be speaking against this, and then we'll deal with your support for the other one after that.
Thank you, Mr Mayor and CEO, for clarifying that. I really appreciate the information, and thank you for allowing me to continue to speak. So Staff have advised that the visitors at the Cabana Bay precinct is the place where the visitors are. I would like to know what process was used to determine this, because my guess is, with the new youth precinct, there's probably more visitors now at the CBD. I'm keen to know, would staff prefer to work in a 70 square metre facility or a 30 square metre sea container? The 30 metre square sea container is only suitable for 2 people, I believe. What is going to happen if the visitation increases and more staff is needed? There are many reasons of which I've carefully considered. Community feedback and overwhelming support for locating in the CBD. Tourists and visitors arriving by bus. The walkability from the bus station to the location of the Bunbury Visitor Centre. The safety and security. The activation of the old train station precinct, congestion, parking and accessibility, and the Bunbury City Centre Action Plan, adopted by Council in 2020. Community feedback has provided me with many plausible comments and overwhelming support to why they want the Bunbury Visitor Centre to remain in the CBD. Visitors arriving by bus or parking their RVs nearby see the old train station precinct as the entry point to our city and its CBD. Consider the heritage values of the old train station as the entry statement that captures the vibe of our community. Buses loaded with tourists and visitors arrive daily at the bus station.
I think we're getting a bit relaxed here, that we're not debating on whether we're going to the bus centre, we are debating.
Yes, thanks, Councillor McCleary. I'm going to allow it because she's talking about why she would be against the foreshore compared to that, so I'll allow that. Thank you. Councillor Quain, please continue.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Council, please consider walkability from the CBD to the location of the future visitor centre, as not everybody arrives by car to visit the gateway to the southwest, our state's second city. Last week I visited the old train station and was very disappointed to see our city's state heritage asset in such poor neglect. Council, we need to ensure our signature asset is well kept and in a place of pride within our CBD. The precinct is the first experience and impression tourists and visitors make of our city as they arrive to the bus station. First impressions are the most lasting. Let us talk about the Bunbury City Centre Action Plan as adopted by Council in 2020. Does taking the Bunbury Visitor Centre away from the CB conflict with the outcomes we want to achieve as highlighted in this plan? Surely removing a historical essential service from the CBD would not be considered in line with the Bunbury City Centre Action Plan. Surely our CBD business owners would not want to see the Bunbury Visitor Centre taken away from the city centre. Please consider the impact this would have on their business and our CBD. Activation and ensuring the vitality of our CBD is a major priority of Council. As we know, Council sets aside substantially funds to ensure this. Prime West Building. Soon there will be extra 500 or so staff working in the new Prime West Building. They may use the bus station to commute. They may choose to enjoy their lunch hours sitting around the old train station, further contributing to the activation and vitality of this area. You must agree this would be an ideal outcome. Let's entice the Centrelink staff to want to spend their lunchtime over at the old train station. Let us increase the attractiveness of this precinct to our visitors and community to make it a Council's priority. Let us make sure that the first impression is the best impression. In our current budget, there's $100,000 allocated to relocate the BVC. This could be used to ensure a safe and secure location for the Bunbury City Centre to return. Let us spruce it up with a lick of paint and new furnishing. The staff would love it. Also in the budget, there's funds to improve Carmody Place and Prinsep Street. This would further add to enhancing the precinct. Let us talk about the safety and security of our community in and around the bus station.
Councillor Quain, just have been over I've allowed a bit of extra time, so just to summarise your points, thanks.
Okay, yep. Let us also discuss the congestion and ease of parking at a new viable location. I've had a contact from a member from the Kambana Bay Sailing Club raising their concerns of extra congestion. In closing, I've spoken about the community feedback, I've spoken about tourists arriving on bus, I've spoken about walkability, safety and security, activation of the CBD precinct, congestion, parking, accessibility, and the business centre action plan. Council, let us get this right. We need to bring the VVC back to the city centre. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Quain. Is there a speaker for the executive recommendation?
I'd like to move that we suspend standing orders, that we, if people are willing to talk against, so we actually hear all debate.
Not all standing orders, I hope, Councillor Steele, just the standing order that refers to order of debate. Is there a seconder that we remove the standing order relating to order of debate? Councillor Kozisek. All those in favour? Councillor Steck?
No.
Okay, that's carried anyway. Sorry, Councillor Steck. So we are open for debate now anyway, Councillor Steck. So further speakers for or against? Councillor Gassett.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This afternoon I went to an Indigenous lullaby gathering. It was fantastic. So Kaya, Donnybrook and everyone else.
Councillor
Hello.
Gassett, I'd just get you to move your mic a little bit, especially with Councillor Steck on the line. Just maybe speak into that where you can.
Okay. So I was going to raise a point of order about occupational health and safety. That's required in any workplace and anywhere. So I fully acknowledge the concerns that the CEO has responsibility for. I'm not sure if has an assessment been made out at Kambana Bay so on a winter's day where it's further away from the police station as far as response times. Just a question.
I'll take it as a rhetorical question.
Okay, rhetorical.
Councillor Gassett, sorry.
So maybe, Liam, would you please put page 59 up? Page 259, 259. So while Liam's putting it up, just under the coloured part there was a survey done in this report presented by the executive, and I accept Councillor Andrews' comments that we need to look at the data and information presented in the report. That line just under the coloured section there, you probably can't read it there, but it says, the visitor survey shows that visitors who have participated in the survey valued most the walkability from the Bunbury Visitor Information Centre to the town centre. Let you dwell on it a little bit. I'm going to reread it. That's what the visitors are telling us. Okay. So, I'm going to stick to points. I did a walk through town and sort of a survey of many of the businesses and other people who may be impacted by whatever we do here. And the findings, I'm not sure if you can put that up, Liam, as well.
Point of order, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Andrew, point of order.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Can you please provide some clarity? The Ordinary Council meeting on the 22nd of February 2022, point 3, ensure that the review includes assessment of industry research engagement with key tourism bodies, BVC members and other local stakeholders. Council's decision was to instruct the City and the administration to do the surveys and engagement. Thus, why is another research paper being added outside of that? In point 19 of prohibition against involvement in administration.
Point of order, Andrew? Councillor Andrew?
Clarity around if we can allow. It is in...
Sure, thank you. Yeah, clarity. Look, Councillor Andrew, if a councillor has done their own research, they're able to provide that research, and it's up to elected members to determine whether or not that research should be determined in their decision-making process. So, carry on, Councillor Gassett.
As I keep saying, I love Australia's democracy. I was engaging over the course of the last few weeks with people in the city who may be impacted. And, you know, some might say, why do you go and talk to them? They don't know what they're talking about. They don't know about tourism. Well, if I was going to be asked to transplant my kidney for the greater good, I'd like to be consulted about it. And that's why I've done the survey. So the survey was, including, and this is a qualitative survey, so it's in-depth interview, 52 interviews, 3 participants. If you go right to the last page, please, Liam, on that one. 3 participants supported the location to Kambana Bay, 3 participants were neutral, 46 opposed the relocation to Kambana Bay. Most opposed Kambana Bay whether it's transportable or because of the location. Most wanted the BVC in the centre and mainly back at the old train station. Many suggested that the security be fixed in the old train station, and I would certainly support that. I was never under the impression that we would send people back there without ensuring that it is to the full satisfaction of the CEO. And I'd be happy to staple that comment, CEO's comment, on the back of Councillor Marina's foreshadowed motion, that you wouldn't relocate them unless the CEO is fully satisfied with security. And I've given some suggestions as to how you can deal with it in the interim. By the way, some security people have questioned whether it's actually safer out Kambana Bay during my discussions. The strategic community plan. In the top 5, we have safety and crime prevention, access to housing, sustainability and climate change, development of the city centre, and tourism attractions. That's in the strategic community plan. So the 3 things I just mentioned. 1, the visitors' comments, walkability to the city centre. 2, the people in town. And the community themselves. It's 3 out of 3. Safety, development of the city centre and tourism attractions. So, Councillor Marina mentioned something about the costings. I believe that the costing, once the staff manage to get some time to get onto it, will be, and you have all the add-ons, infrastructure surrounding it, and I can provide you the details, which I've given to the minute taker if you want, but I believe it's going to be at least $300,000. Okay? And I'm prepared to table that. Now, if we go to the KBC at Kambana Bay, we still have to do something. We still have to do something with the old train station. We can't just leave it as it is and let it go derelict. We've also got a fund, General Parking Reserve. We've still got $4.6 million left over after some of it going to waste and the hands oval, which can be used also for promotions and CBD promotions and parking, obviously. There's also potential other sources, for example, heritage funding. So for me to go with point 2 in this recommendation without actually having satisfied myself fully of the financial implications, I'd be obligating my duty. Okay. Now
Councillor Gafsa, as your 5 minutes, I did allow some extra time. Again, okay. I'll ask you to summarise.
All right. Let's say we go to the Kambana Bay. You've got the Dolphin Discovery Centre. We've actually got a tourist kiosk there. So we have a second one within 200 metres of the other one. Yep, I'll just use this last thing to sum it up. It's just timely. We've got Donnybrook here tonight. I looked at the website, the Tourist Bureau website. We are located right in the centre of Donnybrook town site, in Ayers Garden, in the old train station. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gassip. Is there a further speaker for or against the executive recommendation in front of us? Councillor Smith? Sorry, Councillor Steck, just one moment. Councillor Smith has stood up. I'll come back to you in just a moment. Councillor Smith?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm going to be voting for this recommendation for a couple of reasons. One, I think we need to get the staff out of the admin building. I don't think it's a good look. 2, it doesn't have to be permanent. And 3, we don't have to write off the old train station permanently, but it certainly has some problems at the moment that we need to fix up before we put any staff back in there. Once we sort that out, it might be 18 months, it might be 2 years, whatever, we can certainly consider going back there. But for the time being, I think that, that we receive the attached report and we support the relocation of the Bunbury Visitor Centre to Kambana Foreshore. I would perhaps add a third motion to say that it's only temporary and we could perhaps put a timeline on it, but I don't think we can let the current situation stand. We need to do something about the admin building here, and we also need to do something about the train station to make it fit for purpose. And I take on board Councillor Gasseb's comments and Councillor Quain's comments that we need to reactivate that area in the middle of the CBD. But for the time being, it's not fit for purpose. I went with Councillor Quain on Friday. We toured all round the station. It's not fit at the moment to put anyone in there to work until we fix up all the issues that it has. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. And just to the CEO, just to clarify probably that question from Councillor Smith, which, Mr CEO, I know that this will come at some stage, you'll be having further discussions around the final location, final design, etc., etc. Would you envision at that stage you'll have some kind of either term or plans around that?
So you're talking, sorry, just to be clear, Mr Mayor, you're talking about a limited term?
Yeah. Oh, well,
so
yeah.
And based on some other conversations that have been had, I think that if council wanted to review the situation on a regular basis, to one, look at the visitation numbers, look at how it's working for visitation, and also how, I guess, our staff are then directing people back into town. It's probably an opportunity to maybe, once it's up and running, to review the data every 12 months for 2 years, and similar to what we did with the overnight rest stops, and then have a look at what that might mean for a longer term. So that would be an opportunity. I wasn't sure whether Councillor Smith was proposing a point 3, but something along a regular review for maybe 12 months after occupancy and another 12 months after occupancy to be brought back to council.
I think given all the debate that's taken place, we need to review every option, and I wouldn't like to put the visitor service in a permanent position without reviewing it at least once a year, and as the CEO, check the numbers, who's coming, who's not coming, and why. Thank you.
The mover and second are happy. Are you happy? The mover and second are happy with a 12-monthly review period? 12 monthly, see?
2 lots of 12 months.
So 2 lots of 12 months. Yep. While we're just getting that draft, if the mover and second are happy when we deal with that, we'll deal with that. And Councillor Steck, just for your records, the mover and second are happy to provide a point 3 on this, which we're just getting written up now, but it will be that the CEO provide annual reviews for year 1 and year 2.
I'm not going to agree to that.
Yeah, well, one sec, Councillor Steck. We're just, good Councillor Steck, just one sec, Councillor Steck, 1 second. We're just getting it up. Okay. I'm just happy to. That was, if they're happy to move, the original mover and second are happy to accept that, yeah.
Can I just ask a question, because I am not decided yet, and until Councillor Smith presented that information, I was going to vote against this motion.
We'll take these 3
Yes,
separately.
so I would like clarification that this isn't a permanent location. I think as what Councillor Smith was saying, this,
Councillor, Mr Mayor, may I just ask the question?
Councillor McCleary, question yet? I'll just get back to yours in just a sec, Councillor Steele.
Would it be correct in any of our items that we've ever dealt with that if we found year 1 and year 2 the report coming back is pretty negative and nothing's permanent, we would then consider, or the staff would consider, bringing a recommendation to us to move the city anyway? So it would,
that would be part of the review.
Yeah.
If it was not working,
so
we would
that
review it.
assist
And it would be
you,
I'll let you dwell on that for a second, Councillor Steele, because I think I've cut Councillor Steck off a few times, who I believe wants to speak against. Councillor Steck, was that your intention?
Yes, please.
Floor is yours.
I don't want to create space for everyone, not happy, but I don't agree. And I can't believe that the second city of Bunbury, or the second city of the state, being Bunbury, is going to put, a donga somewhere. And I don't care what you call it. I don't care how you dress it up. That's what we're doing.
No worries. Thank you, Councillor Steck. Is there a further speaker for or speaker
Mr Mayor,
against?
can I just ask a question? That's not the intention, is it, to put a donga there?
Look, there's been a few words used, Councillor Smith. Donga's been used, sea container. We are talking about a standalone facility. That information will be provided as we've been discussed. The staff are working through that, and that'll be coming back. That'll be worked through. Councillor Steck.
How do we all find
Councillor Steck, unless you have a question, please just refrain from any outbursts. Did you have a question, Councillor Steck?
I just want to know, how do we all fund the regional city, and how do the GeoGraph funding still exist?
So,
How do we all mix that in the mix?
well, currently we have allocated $100,000 to this facility. If it proves to not, well, it's proved anyway. In terms of funding of the Bunbury Visitor Centre, the City of Bunbury fully fund that, if I'm not mistaken, CEO.
So the $100,000, Mr Mayor, in the budget?
Yes, yeah, but who funds the Bunbury Visitor Centre?
The Bunbury Visitor Centre is predominantly funded by the city. I'm not sure if there's a little bit of revenue and no grant funds.
So that answer, Councillor Steck, City of Bunbury fund the operation of the Bunbury Visitor Centre besides some potential revenue. Was there a further?
Revenue.
I'm guessing from sales and bits and pieces.
And commission.
Commissions and sales, Councillor Steck. Question, Councillor Kosicek, or speak?
Speak if I may.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr Mayor and fellow councillors. Sitting here weighing this backwards and forwards, I did just want to clarify a point that Councillor Andrews made and Councillor Gassard made about Councillor Gassard's survey. I know the staff did do a very thorough survey, but they only surveyed any retailers or hospitality businesses that were actually members of the visitor centre. Now, I believe that this made this a very narrow survey, and I don't think it was a fair spread of the whole CBD, whereas I do believe Councillor Gassard's survey has given us probably a bit more information. And again, the staff did a fantastic job, but I just think maybe there was a little bit of an omission there about the number of people that were surveyed. I think that needs to be taken into consideration. I also wanted to say that the logic that has been presented to us to move the visitor centre, it seems very sound, but a lot of this logic is based on the security in that area. And I know we've discussed that in many ways, and I believe that, I firmly believe that we have a fabulous heritage building in a fabulous location, best location in the city, that is well known to be a visitor centre. It's pretty well opposite our next great attraction now, which is our fabulous youth precinct. All we need now is that connecting overpass. We'll work on that. So I do believe that we have probably neglected in the last 12 months to 2 years to actually address the lack of security, both in that region and in other areas in the city. I can relay to councillors many incidents that I have heard from retailers about how vulnerable they felt many times in the city at certain occasions. So it's not just an issue with the visitor centre. It happens in many locations, in many cities, in many towns all across the world. Unfortunately, it's a sign of the times and something we need to deal with. And in saying that, because of the presence of the bus station in that area, I feel that maybe the Perth Transit Authority has an obligation to step up and offer a bit more security on their side, because they take a visit here once a fortnight to check out the security. I don't think that's adequate in a bus station that runs 7 days a week, and I think we need to have a conversation with Perth Transit Authority to improve the security. Other than that, I'm torn, but I really think we need to move the visitor centre back where it's been for the last 25 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kozak. Is there a further speaker for or against? Councillor, yep.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I'm speaking for the executive recommendation. If we can all just step back and put our strategic hats on like we are supposed to be as councillors and try not to micromanage this project, which is the job of the staff. I'm pretty sure we've all been in the same room when we've been discussing the future of Kambana, the future of CBD, what we want for this town, how we want tourism, how destination marketing is important, what the board is going to do to us. So if we think about in 10 years' time, we're going to be one of those lucky towns where we will have a tourism precinct, which is Kambana Bay, which is almost like our version of Busselton's foreshore. And we will have a beautiful heritage main street full of beautifully restored heritage buildings. So it's up to us as leaders, surely, to take the community on this journey. Maybe they can only see the next 12 months because it's their businesses and they're worried and things are changing in the economy. But if we take a longer view, I think a relocation to Kambana Bay is quite visionary for what we all want for this town, and it may not end up there. But we've been talking about Bicentennial Square and how we want to refurbish that, and talking to the bus station and what we do with that, and how we open up that whole area to combine it with Coolanbiddy Woola, and moving the visitor centre temporarily or permanently, if that's the case, will give us a chance to explore that area and what we do with it. Mangrove Cove, the state government are putting in the all accessible nature playground, and we have you know, the potential for an Indigenous cultural centre, and maybe they will run a visitor centre there one day. But I just think that, you know, sometimes change is really scary to businesses and to people, but I think it's up to us to make a bold decision and be brave and look at this temporary move to Kambana Bay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Is there a further speaker for or speaker against? Councillor Gassop, a question?
Yes, question, Mr Mayor. But before the question, there's been a few comments about my survey. Now that is now a publicly available survey. So it's available to anyone in the public upon request. It's no longer a confidential survey. The question is on page 251, location point 1. Knowledge visitor servicing will not return to the old railway station building. Just wondering what sort of bearing this has on the resolution and item 3.
I think you asked that question last week, yes. Councillor Gassop, and this was part of the report. As we know, that report's not setting anything in stone. That's the report we received. That's all I can answer from that regard. It's not locking us into any decision for that. As we note there, there's receiving the report. We're not endorsing the report. We're not taking recommendations. We're receiving that report.
One more question, Mr.
Sure.
Why was only one site considered in this whole report, and why was not the old train station considered in this report?
So I believe there was a number of locations considered, and there definitely was a number of locations considered in the report.
Second part of the question, why wasn't the old train station considered?
CEO?
Through Mr Mayor, the railway station was considered, given the circumstances and the redevelopment opportunities that we felt would be better positioned down there. It did not bubble to the top of the surface in the list of the criteria that we used. So there was early consideration, but there are a number of factors that, I guess, led us away from that site.
Further speaker for or against? I will speak for it. I wasn't going to, councillors, but I've made a whole bunch of notes, but I'm not going to use any of them. And I think we just need to break this down and keep it simple. There's been a lot of talk about possibilities, bits and pieces, what's going on, what's happening here, safety, whatever it may be. I think we need to look at this recommendation as it reads. Point 1, quite simple, can't see any problems with that. Point 2 is obviously the sticking point for us at the moment, and I support the relocation to the Kambana Foreshore new standalone facility. Not a bungalow, not a sea container, a standalone facility. And I think as the staff work through that, we've been talking about trust in each other and trust in our staff. As our staff work through that, I think we'll be very pleasantly surprised at what they come up with, and it'll be a transportable, and it won't be a permanent. Well, hopefully it becomes a great solution, and we expand on it, and it gets bigger and bigger. But we'll see that as things go on. I read the I won't be able to pronounce it quite properly, but the Hay Berlin consulting report on future visitor centres. I'm sure Mr. Renner's probably seen it, and I read another report to work this out because it has been a very topical discussion. There are a number of different 457 visitors accredited visitor centres across Australia, and every single one of them are different in their own right. They're all treated differently. They're all owned and operated differently. Some privately, some council, some sub-regional councils. So it is a very complex issue, but every single one talk about the importance of making sure the visitor centre is where the visitors go, and that's where we're at the moment. So Kambana, as we quite... Councillor Still? Okay. So... Sure. Councillor Gassop?
We're getting told that's where the visitors go. But
Councillor Gassop, sorry, I'll retract that then. My opinion is where the visitors come to Bunbury, they're in Kambana. And it's mentioned that Kambana is not in the CBD. It is in the CBD. It's very, very close. In fact, we're all up in arms when we didn't get Mangrove Cove the preferred site of what we wanted out there because we were told it was in the CBD and everybody was up in arms. I believe Kambana is the ideal spot. This will go in. We will review it. And in all regards, in all hopeful, it'll be a very, very good location for that spot. Moving forward, we may amend it, and hopefully in a number of years' time when we're looking at redevelopment of the old bus station, maybe it comes back in there. It's fitting that we have Donnybrook in the audience with us today, because at some stage this should probably be a regional facility anyway, and it should be a Bunbury Southwest or Bunbury Geograph Visitor Centre servicing the entire Southwest. So at this stage, keeping it very simple, I'm happy with 1, I'm happy with 2, and obviously I'm happy with 3 as well, and I'll be encouraging councillors to support them. Councillor Steele, do you have a question?
Yeah, question, because I'm still torn.
Yeah.
Will the report come back with where it's actually going to go in Kambana and what it's actually going to look like?
Sure.
Because it doesn't have that in the recommendation. I'm just so concerned with congestion, as Councillor Andrew, highlighted. The marina expansion is, we're pushing something into something that cannot be expanded with car parks. A bit like Bunbury, we're on the peninsula and we're going to shove something in there to have more congestion.
Sure. CEO, are you happy to elaborate, if this is approved, what the process from here will be?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. So the indication we've given previously is that once the precinct has been determined, we'll provide some further detailed scope of the sites and the site selection, because there are more than one opportunities over there. And then we had also committed to bring back to elected members a variety of options of how the building might look, so that one, you can see the location, but also to see how the building might function and how it might appear in that particular site.
I would feel more comfortable then if there's a point 4 with stating that, because otherwise at the moment we're not actually voting that within that recommendation. So really I would feel more comfortable if that was actually a point 4.
Any suggestions there, CEO? Or is there an amendment perhaps? How could we word something up around that?
Once locations within Kambana Bay precinct have been...
How about you ask the CEO just to draft something up?
Yeah, you go do that. Thank you.
What the intention is seeking is that a further report be brought back to council with location and, I guess, artistic representations of the building.
Mover and seconder, are you happy with that point 4? Councillor Quain, do you have a question? We're just getting this drafted up at the moment, but...
Point 4, will the costs be considered in the
yeah. Councillor Quain, at the moment there's been 100,000 allocated through the budget. If they to spend, the city are not able to spend more on that without getting endorsement through council. That's a budgeted figure. They can't spend outside the budgeted figure without getting endorsement. Well, an absolute majority endorsement from council. So if it needs to be, then yes. At the moment, there's 100,000 allocated.
Ask the Chair, Mr.
Councillor Gav's question?
Chair, Just in regards to, a question in regards to the budget.
Yep.
Now, am I allowed to show my budget estimate?
No.
Okay. So, question is, have the following been allowed for? Location design, project management, site preparation, footings and slabs.
Councillor Gasser, please take a seat. I'm not going to accept that question at this stage. As there's talked about in the report about the fact that council have allocated funds there. There's been some preliminary works done, but as I mentioned to Councillor Quain, if there is any further requirements from a budget point of view, it needs to come through council for endorsement.
Mr Chair, just another question. I guess what I'm trying to lead to here is to make a decision, I need the financial implications. I have doubt about the $100,000. I'm trying to ask whether all these inclusions have been allowed for, which in my estimate, and I'm very happy to table it, is $330,000.
Councillor Gasser, you don't need to provide your estimate. CEO, it was asked last week, but could you give maybe another clarification of what figures have been dealt with at the moment?
Through Mr Mayor, and Councillor Gasser, we did have this conversation yesterday and we provided this same information to you yesterday, but I'll ask either Mr Barber or Ms Anderson to provide the information again.
Through Mr Mayor, the 100,000 figure was based on estimates, some preliminary quotations of the actual facility that we might be looking at, and some estimates around connections to servicing, etc. We were confident that that was in the ballpark, hence the allocation of the 100,000 in the budget. As has been mentioned, we're limited by the budget. So if the facility was to exceed that, it would have to come back to council to seek additional funding if that was the case.
Councillor McGrew.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Could we change just one word there, where it says all plans to concept, because then that means that we could have a couple to discuss. So actually just bring floor plans.
Sure. Just floor plans change the concept? Yep. Councillor Steele, you happy with that point 3? Does that clarify what you're after? Councillor Steck, for your note, we just there's been a mover, well not a mover and a second, the mover and a seconder have accepted a point 4, which now becomes point 3, that requests the CEO to prepare a further report to be brought back to council identifying preferred location within Kambana Bay Precinct and renderings and concepts of proposed facility. We'll be taking all these items separately, Councillor Steck.
Can I please ask one question?
Of course you can.
Where does this all fit in the National Inlet Master Plan? Because it's never been mentioned.
It doesn't, Councillor Steck. Yeah.
Well, there was a lot of money spent on that, and there was $2 million for the
That's okay, Councillor Steck.
project, and that didn't come out in this either.
Is there a further speaker for or against? Councillor Gassett?
It is a free country.
It is.
Yep. And I need to make sure that the financial implications are to my satisfaction. So, and this question hasn't been answered. The occupancy for 30 or 36 square metre standalone facility, what would it be? How many people in that facility would it occupy under Class 5 of NCC?
Sia?
Mr Mayor, that detail will come out in the detail of the design and drawing. Obviously the city will make sure that anything that is built is compliant with all codes and is fit for purpose for the number of visitors and the number of staff that we'd anticipate being in and around the facility at that site.
Thank you. Last call for further speaker for or against. If that's the case, Councillor McCleary, who is the... Yes, sorry, thank you, Councillor Smith. You happy to move that we reinstate all standing orders? Thank you. Second, thank you. All those in favour? Councillor Steck, that was just reinstating reinstating standing orders. Your...
Oh, well, sorry,
yes. Yep, that's fine.
please?
Yes, we are taking them separately. We're now closing out the debate, Councillor Steck, so Councillor McCleary, as mover, can close.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and may I say wow, because we have been terrific. The arguments have been really well disciplined and succinct, so I personally was, I'm glad I'm here for this debate tonight, because it is a very emotional debate that we've had, and I'm pleased to have it. So, having said that, I've got lots of scribbles, and I do apologise. I have not a lot to say, because Councillor Smith, Councillor Andrew and Councillor Yip stole my thunder, but that's okay. Okay, I'm just going to quickly go through, stole my thunder with my closing, so I'm not going to repeat. But the detailed paperwork in the report, I think that's really important. And yes, it was there for us to study and look at. And as Councillor Andrews stated, it's all about real estate will tell you location, location, location. And Kambana Bay is really an excellent location for our visitors centre. The other thing is the walkability. I know I walk a lot, okay, I'm a fit person, but having said that, even someone in a wheelchair or who is a slower walker than the average person, they've only got to go across the bridge and they bang into Taffy's. God, we've got to stop for a chocolate. You've got the coffees there. You walk across the road, you're already in Victoria Street. Yes, you're quite correct, Mr Mayor. It's pretty much in the centre, and as we grow more, that area will be the centre of Bunbury. It's certainly activated and ready to go. So the walkability is there, I believe. The other thing that came up was that looking at the moving of the Kambana Transportable, I'm glad we've sorted that out here, so well done to everybody for working through that. The other thing is the safety. We go back to the bus or the railway station. I always laugh because men have an affinity with trains, I think. But anyway, we need to do a costing and a feasibility study in regards to the railway station. That could take quite some time. So I'm really, probably take a couple of years knowing the way public servant and the red tape goes. So I am really pleased to see that we have this, that we have something up here that we can really work with now and progress, because that's what we are as councillors. That's what we pride ourselves in being, progressive, innovative, risk takers, but with listening to what our councillors and what our staff are saying before we take that risk. It's a calculated risk that we take, and it is really wonderful that we can surge forward with Bunbury if this goes through tonight. So I once again want to thank the councillors for listening and for adjusting their feelings and their views as we've gone and walked through this whole debate tonight. The other thing is I really can't state any more. I just feel that we need to look at, if you are really concerned about that walkability, it's there, and possibly in a year or so someone will think and come up with an innovative thought to put in a bus to get people whizzing in and out through that way. So I'm going to leave it at that. I just hope to remind you of what Councillor Smith, Councillor Andrews and the other people that have spoken today have said. I hope you've all still remembered it, and that you will vote accordingly to your conscience, and hopefully we'll get this through. Thank you.
Right, so councillors, we are dealing with the items. We're going to deal with item 1, which is to receive the attached report review of visitor centres at Appendix 10.4.3/A. All those in favour? Councillor Steck?
No.
Oh, sorry, those against? I should have asked that first. There is 3 against.
Yeah.
Yep. Item 2 is supports the relocation of the Bunbury Visitor Information Centre to Kambana Foreshore and a new standalone facility. All those in favour? 1, 2, 3, 4, 7.
Absolutely
Yeah,
not.
those against?
No.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 against, that's carried. Item 3 is a request the CEO prepare a further report to be brought back to Council identifying the preferred location within Kambana Bay Precinct and renderings and concepts of the proposed facility. All those in favour?
I think
Tho-
that's short-winded.
Those against? Was that?
I'm against it because I think it's short-winded.
No
It
worries.
should
That,
be-
Councillor Steck, we don't need your rationale, thank you. That's 4 against.
Thank you.
And item 4 is request that the CEO provide the annual reviews for year 1 and year 2 for occupancy of the proposed visitor centre at Kambana Foreshore. All those in favour?
No.
Those against? 1 against. That's carried. Thank you, Councillor Steck. Councillors, I believe that brings us to, we do have a application of leave, Councillor Giles. Could somebody move, we approve Councillor Giles' leave, moved by Councillor Andrews, second by Councillor McCreary. Those in favour of the application of leave, Councillor Steck?
Yes.
That's approved. Thank you. And I believe that brings us to a close. Thank you all for attending. Thanks for Donnybrook for coming along, and we'll see you at dinner. Thanks, Michelle.